Hello, my attentive little pupils. I am giving you your 4-minute warning. 4-minute warning. We will begin in 4 minutes. Quickly, take your seats. Thank you. All right. We are here. So it says, Janelle, do you have anything prepared that you would like to say that NC sponsor? Is there anything that you want to formally say?
I was going to do like a very short address of just introduce myself, say welcome, having us, like, and then talk. I want to talk very briefly about we provide what's called like a helpline. So members of SUMA can call us for free consultation guides on the so you want to call them. That's
And then the premier comes up here. I told you. Which is our we're kind of our job is just to settle everyone, make sure that we do for you.
okay.
I'm a teacher.
Okay.
I'm a teacher.
I actually, Derek told me that you're a teacher by trade. My mom's a grade 6 teacher, so I know. Yeah.
The way they act. So I will call them out.
You know what? It's hard to sit and listen when, once you're like through that phase in your life, it's hard. It's a challenging transition.
So have a seat, and then we'll have Randy's coming. They'll sit down, and as soon as he sits down, we'll
head off that way, but you don't have to sit on. Sure, yeah, of course.
So we're going to move the mic so that we'll both stand there together, okay? Please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the extended break and the fact that I tried really hard to keep us on time. That's going to be my signature of this event. I hope you had a chance to visit the trade show, to network with the other colleagues, with your peers, and with the vendors that are in that trade show. It'll be there all week. Ladies and gentlemen, class is now started. Clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you want to start. Clap 3 times if you'd like people to take their seats. Oh, you see, you're a good kindergarten class. I knew it. The MC sponsor is a Brownlee LLP, and I'm the MC. Isn't that fun? So they're paying for me, and I would like to introduce Janelle Butler, a partner with Brownlee LLP, onto the stage. And Janelle and I, before I let you, address the crowd.
Yeah.
I want to know, where are you from, and are we related?
I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. To my knowledge, we are not related.
No, because you're not from Saskatchewan. I'm most, yeah, that's what happened.
Sorry.
How long have you been here?
How long have I been here? When did I arrive here? I arrived here on Sunday. I came from Calgary. I took the long way, but it was sunny and beautiful when I got here. Happy to be here, although I heard it's going to snow, guys.
No, we're not even going to say that word till the convention's over. What sport is your favorite?
Curling.
Oh,
Curling.
good. And if you could play a position in curling, and there's only 4, which one would it be?
Not the skip, because that's a lot of pressure. Maybe second. You know what? We actually had a Brownlee curling tournament. We call it El Rocco. We only had a few slip and falls, no head injuries this year. So I think it's a success.
Awesome. We are so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for being a sponsor. My last question and your opportunity to address is, why is it important to Brownlee LLP to sponsor here at SUMA?
Well, as you guys hopefully all know by now, Brownlee loves municipal law. We've partnered with SUMA again to bring the Brownlee Legal Helpline service. It's a quick way for you guys to consult, get legal advice on a casual basis to help you take a proactive approach to your problems and hopefully, avoid legal advice altogether. Because although we know that you guys love dealing with us, sometimes if you can save that pain later by a quick informal consultation on the front end, we love to be able to do that for you guys. So thanks so much for having us. Welcome everyone from the partners and associates at Brownlee, and come visit us at the trade show. Thanks everyone.
Thanks very much,
Thanks,
Janelle.
Joan.
Thanks.
Nice
That
to
was
meet you.
fun. That was fun. Thanks for playing along, Janelle. You look like a second. Smart, beautiful, whatever that means. Okay, welcome back. Everyone, let's settle in. I'd like to call upon our SUMA president, Randy Golden, to get us started and to introduce our next guest. Randy.
Well, thank you, Joan. Indeed, it is my absolute pleasure this morning to introduce our Premier, Saskatchewan's Premier, the Honourable Scott Moe. So I really want to thank the Premier for being with us this morning, and we all appreciate your taking time to be here with us when we know that you have your other duties in Regina to look after. But when I say we are very happy to have you here, by we, I mean SUMA, all of us. So our board of directors, our 411 folks, members, and the residents that we are here representing, because we all know that the residents in urban municipalities and the people we represent are 80% of the population of this beautiful province of ours. So it is just such a pleasure to see that our Premier values the time and the relationship between us, our government, and all municipal governments. He's here today, and he's going to return on Wednesday, if the weather allows. This is Saskatchewan in the spring, with the cabinet, so that we can all sit down and have some great conversations at the famous Bear Pit. So fellow SUMA members, please join me in welcoming our Premier, Saskatchewan's Premier, the Honourable Scott Moe.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, to all delegates, members of the SUMA executive, to my legislative colleagues that have joined us here today, and to everyone in attendance. Wishing you a very good morning on the first official day of your SUMA convention. It's an honor for myself and our colleagues to be back at SUMA, not just today, but also on Wednesday at the Bear Pit session. This is a partnership that we have that is critical, I would say, to the well-being of Saskatchewan as a whole. As I said, we'll be back here on Wednesday, really looking forward to the Bear Pit. That entire conversation is a great opportunity for us to come together to focus on the priorities of the folks in this province that collectively we represent. It's also a great opportunity for us as your governing cabinet and caucus to gain some insight into what are the priorities, what you are hearing on the streets of main streets of community after community from corner to corner in this province. And so we find that hour and a half or 2 hours of engagement incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable as we learn so very much in a short period of time. I want to thank everyone here today for what you do each and every day, to all the mayors, to the councillors, the administrators. Thank you for your commitment and for your dedicated service to your community and indirectly to the province and our nation of Canada. What you do each and every day in our communities, it makes a huge difference. And it's an important reason why we have what I believe is the very enviable quality of life in our province of Saskatchewan. As I said, it's a pleasure to be with you here this morning, in particular to provide a little bit of an overview with respect to the most recent provincial budget that was introduced by our Deputy Premier, our Minister of Finance, Donna Harpower. It gives us an opportunity to discuss what we're doing in government to ensure the progress that we see in our province today continues for years and ultimately decades into the future. And I want to talk a little bit again today about why I truly think that this is our province, this is Saskatchewan's time to shine, and why we in this province are on the very threshold of continued unprecedented growth. We're seeing that growth today, growth that will and already is unlocking Saskatchewan's true potential, the true potential of the beautiful and vibrant province that we call home. Delegates, as you look around the world today, there most certainly is a swirl of uncertainty that we're seeing around the world. But this much is clear. In an uncertain world, people everywhere, they can count on Saskatchewan. They can count on you. Saskatchewan remains an indispensable provider of food, fuel, and fertilizer to over 150 countries around the world. And now more than ever, the world needs what we're producing right here at home. The world needs what you produce, and I would say produce so sustainably and so efficiently in our communities. Ladies and gentlemen, our time in this province, it most certainly, it's arrived. We have a great story to tell in Saskatchewan. I would say you have a great story to tell in Saskatchewan. And in a moment, I'm going to talk a little bit about the international engagement that we're undertaking to bring that story, your story, to the rest of the world. But before we get there, I'm going to do something that's maybe I haven't done before, a little unorthodox. There's a video that we show when we go on trade missions on your behalf around the world. And I want to show you that video right now, and we'll see what you think of it.
There's a huge opportunity to do something really big in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan gives us a competitive advantage to better integrate our businesses by being located right in the heart of where our supply is.
The whole plant-based ingredient sector is booming right now. The demand is there. In terms of capacity, we're about to double, and I'm very excited about the future.
If you want to be international, you want to be an agri-value, Saskatchewan is the place to be.
I think Saskatchewan today is kind of like a technology gold rush. It's the new frontier where people can go and invest and set up tech companies.
We're interested in stable fiscal regimes with strong resource potential and a strong and skilled workforce, and that's what we've got in Saskatchewan.
Our dealings with the Saskatchewan government has been very constructive. There are very clear guidelines set out on how to move a project from exploration through feasibility to production.
I look at the opportunities here and they're endless.
This is a good jurisdiction to be in.
Yeah, I've seen that video a dozen or 24 times, and every time it makes me so very proud to be from this province. You watch it and you really understand why Saskatchewan is a special place, and why this is a special moment in our history when you look back at that turmoil, that uncertainty that's happening in the world. So the first question is, where are we telling this story? Well, I recently returned from a week-long trade mission in India. We were joined there by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who helps us to increase our efforts when it comes to international trade and accessing some of those international markets. We had over 40 various meetings across India in 3 different communities in India, including with a number of members of Prime Minister Modi's cabinet. Earlier this year, Dave Merritt, our Minister of Agriculture, he was in the United Arab Emirates. He was at their Gulf Food Show to promote the agricultural products, in particular canola and pulse crops from Saskatchewan. Jeremy Harrison, our Minister of Trade and Export Development, was in South Korea as well as Japan with a business delegation from Saskatchewan, as well as post-secondary delegation, highlighting what Saskatchewan can bring, not only in food security, but in future energy security when it comes to providing things like uranium and rare earth elements in years today and years into the future. So right now, we are also in the process of opening a 9th trade and investment office. That office will be in Germany, and that office is very specific to service not only the European Union, but in particular a number of Eastern European Union countries where some of that turmoil is most evident today. Delegates, we're planting your flag, our Saskatchewan flag, in key markets around the world, and if we want this province to continue to grow into years into the future, then we need to be out there. We need to be protecting those existing markets that we have. We need to be working in those markets to expand our market share, and then as well working to open new markets in other various places around the world. Business commentator Paul Martin, not the former Prime Minister Paul Martin, but the economist Paul Martin, he said last year, and I quote, "As the most trade-dependent economy in this country, the greater mistake would not be traveling to meet our customers face-to-face." So this answers the where are we telling that story. So what is the Saskatchewan story we are telling? And you saw a summary of that with that video. But put simply, we're telling people that this province has everything to offer the world. Saskatchewan plays a crucial role in global trade as we are suppliers of commodities, manufactured goods, as well as increasingly innovation and technology, providing that energy security and food security to other areas of the world, and most importantly to our North American continent. Saskatchewan is forecast today to lead all provinces in economic growth this year, and our population is growing faster today than it has in over 108 years. On December the 2nd of last year, we hit 1.2 million people in the province. I checked this morning, we're at 1,219,656. So in less than 5 months, our population grew by almost 20,000 people. That's adding a Swift Current and a Melville in about 5 months. It's truly incredible population growth. More people are coming to Saskatchewan, more people are coming to your communities because there is opportunity here. Today, there are major projects that we've been talking about. They've been coming down the pipe for some period of time. Well, they're becoming a reality today. Most notable among them is the BHP investment at Jansen Mine. That is the largest single investment ever in the province's history. It is also, BHP being the largest mining company in the world, it's their largest single investment in the largest mining company in the world's history as well, and it's under construction just east of Saskatoon. You add this to the continued investment of household names in that industry in this province, Nutrien, Mosaic, K+S. Over the last 15 years, we have seen about $30 billion invested in expanding the potash industry here in Saskatchewan. It's the largest industry, the largest exporting industry of potash in the world. Our energy sector is picking up. Last year, about $2.8 billion in capital investment into the energy sector in Saskatchewan. This year, that's forecast to increase to $3.4 billion. If you go south of here to our capital city of Regina, we see Cargill building a new canola crush plant just west of the city. You see Cargill investing in their plant just outside of Saskatoon at Clavette. North of Regina, Viterra is building a plant. East of Regina, AGT and FCL have joined in a partnership on a project there. At Yorkton, we have Richardson Pioneer, who is doubling the capacity of their plant. We see, just announced last week, Louis Dreyfus is doing the same, doubling the capacity of their plant. Billions of dollars are being invested as we add value to canola that is being grown across this province, adding value in our urban centers, and I'll come back to that in a moment. When we travel north to the community of Prince Albert, we see unprecedented investment in the forest industry, out to Carrot River, where we have an expansion of Edgewood forest products there is underway already. We see additional investment coming into that Prince Albert area. Further north of that, we see Cameco, who has reopened their MacArthur River mine as well as their Key Lake mill. My friends, these are just a fraction of the strong economic indicators that are occurring in our province today. In March this year, relative to March last year, we added just a little over 10,000 jobs into our communities across this province. Our unemployment rate in this province, 4.7% is where it sits. That's down from a year ago. It's below the Canadian national average. And the exciting investments that I just went through mean more jobs and more opportunities in your community and, quite frankly, in mine as well. Our mining industry, energy, forestry, construction sectors, they're all hiring across this province. And this year, our exports, and we are an export-driven province, they're up 44%, the highest growth of any province across the nation of Canada. Last year, for the third consecutive year, we set a record in agri-food exports, and we're going to have to update the $13.4 billion in agri-food exports that are in that video to $18.4 billion, which is what they were last year. Our exports are growing. We're shipping more products, and we're shipping higher value products, canola oil instead of canola seed. We're moving up that value-added chain here in the province that we know, love, and live. So my friends, this is part of the story that we're telling, is the sheer volume and importance of what we produce in Saskatchewan to provide energy security and to provide food security. But there's another part to that story that we're also sharing, not just around the world, but also sharing with our fellow Canadians. And some of you maybe have spent a little time in an airport during the last few months. Joan, you in the last few hours. And you may have spent more time than you had anticipated spending in that airport in the last while. But if you did, there's a good chance that you came across one of these signs. This is a sign of our new Sustainable Saskatchewan marketing campaign, a campaign designed to tell the story about our province that I would say has been drastically underreported by the mainstream media and at times maybe even underappreciated by other levels of government in this nation. And this is our story. This is your story, the story of a province that is not only a steady and reliable supplier to more than 150 countries around the world, but the overarching message is this. In Saskatchewan, we should not only be proud of what we produce, but we should be proud of how we produce it. And we would invite all Canadians to be equally proud of how we produce these products in Saskatchewan. Delegates, we have some of the most sustainable products, and we make them available to over 150 countries around the world. The food, the energy, the fertilizer that are manufactured here in this province, millions of people around the world depend on them each and every day. They should consider this fact. We have a world-class potash industry, the largest potash industry in the world. And over the course of doing business for over a half century now, on a per-ton basis in Saskatchewan, our potash producers emit 50% less greenhouse gas emissions than their global competitors. That's 50% less. The carbon footprint of our agricultural products that are produced here in Saskatchewan is far lower than our competitors. When it comes to canola, we're 64% less. When it comes to wheat, we're 65% less. And when it comes to field peas, we're 95% less in our emissions per ton produced than our competitors in other areas of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, you just think about what, for example, our ag producers have done over the course of the last few decades. There's been a massive decrease in summer fallow in this province. There's been a huge expansion of no-till farming innovation that came from urban Saskatchewan. We've seen the rise of pulse crops, the advancement of precision farming, the adoption of rotational grazing. And when you factor all of this in alongside the millions of tons of carbon dioxide that are stored in our natural grasslands and our forage lands, up to 86 tons per acre annually by one estimate, we can say with confidence that agriculture in Saskatchewan most certainly is carbon neutral and likely carbon negative. Now, whether it's mining or our agricultural production, those resources are often found in rural areas of Saskatchewan. And I want to talk a little bit about the synergy between rural areas of Saskatchewan and urban areas of Saskatchewan, how 1 + 1 actually starts to equal 3, 4, or maybe even 5. And don't tell my high school algebra teacher that I do math like that. But here's the synergy. Those resources are in rural areas of Saskatchewan, but the people that add value, that bring value to those resources, make canola oil instead of canola, that add value to the production systems, the agronomists, the parts people, the ag technologists, the research, the Al Slinkards of the world that brought lentils and peas to Saskatchewan. That is the synergy. That is the urban agriculture system that we have. We have an urban mining expertise in this province as well. And that is the synergy between rural Saskatchewan, where the resources are, and urban Saskatchewan and the people that are bringing value to those resources that are going to bring this province success for a long time to come. That's the Sustainable Saskatchewan campaign, and that's a big part of the story that we have collectively to tell in this province. And so we're telling that story to our international customers through this video and our missions abroad. But we're also telling this story to our fellow Canadians so that we can equally be proud of and supporting one another as Canadians. And can you imagine a nation where we get back to doing that? So what does this all mean for us in Saskatchewan? Why? We did the what, we did the where. Why do we tell this story? Well, for one thing, it means that financially our government is now in a better position to continue to invest in your communities. And that's why what you saw in the budget that was released by Minister Harpower here this last month. In that budget, there was additional significant investments in programs and services across the province. Just this morning, for example, SaskPower has made an announcement that is going to affect the demand power rates that, in a positive way, that are being charged, for example, to your local recreational centers, ski hills, things of that nature. This fiscal year, municipal revenue sharing as well, and of interest to all of us in this room, is going to increase to almost $300 million. That brings the total investment since 2007 in municipal revenue sharing to about $4 billion. A growing economy, yes, means higher PST revenues in the province, and that means more revenue sharing for your community. This is a 106% increase since 2007. That funding has more than doubled since we have had the opportunity and the honor to serve as your government. And you may know that Saskatchewan, and I'm sure you do, that Saskatchewan's revenue sharing program is quite unique in the nation of Canada. It's a no strings attached program. You decide what you do with the funding, and that is because we feel that you're much closer to the ground with respect to the priorities in your community, and you're able to invest those dollars as you see fit. In this budget, there was a significant and targeted investment in healthcare spending, and there needed to be, and that needs to continue into the future. Over 40% of our provincial budget does go into our healthcare budget. Delegates, I would say this. I hear you when you say more needs to be done to address the challenges that we're seeing in our healthcare facilities across this province, and quite frankly, they're not unique to Saskatchewan. They're present across the nation of Canada. But I would say that not only do I hear you, but your governing caucus hears you as well, and we have more work to do on this front. This budget increased our healthcare investment by 6.7%. There are going to be more surgeries that are performed in our hospitals. There are going to be more publicly funded surgeries that will be delivered in privately operated facilities as well. There are going to be more diagnostics. There are going to be more MRIs, more CT scans, more doctors available, more RNs, more LPNs, more nurse practitioners, more continuing care assistants, and more physician assistants in our communities in the days ahead. Alongside that, we are going to continue our investment in infrastructure as new hospitals are advancing in Prince Albert and Weyburn, in Yorkton, in Esterhazy and Rosthern, all moving forward, planning for new long-term care facilities in La Ronge and Grenfell, among a number of other communities. And we're going to retain our relentless focus on our 4-point Health Human Resource Action Plan. We're hiring and training more healthcare workers, more healthcare professionals for our communities across the province. And we've had some successes in recruiting doctors into a number of communities, including Southie, Esterhazy, Radville, Assiniboia, Biggar, and Kamsack. We've expanded our healthcare training seats in the province by 700 training seats this year. That includes 150 nurse training seats, bringing our nurse training seats up to about 1,000 across the province. We're undertaking international outreach to recruit healthcare professionals from abroad and bring them to Saskatchewan, and that is working as well. There has been 420 job offers that have been made to continuing care assistants, to nurses, to laboratory technicians for the most part. Recruits from the Philippines have arrived and continue to arrive as recently as this past weekend, but they're in communities like Moose Jaw and Kindersley, Swift Current, East End, Strasbourg, and of course our capital city of Regina, and I would say that there are many more on the way. We've enriched incentives for new graduates from healthcare programs here at home to work in rural and remote areas, hard to recruit areas at times in our province. In addition to increasing the rural physician incentive from to $200,000 for a 5-year return for service. That particular incentive was $47,000. We increased that to $200,000. It's one of the most competitive incentive programs to attract physicians in the country, and we expanded it from a 4-year return for service to a 5-year return for service, most certainly in the hopes that we would not only receive that 5 years of return for service, but a family would make their home in your community and ultimately stay there for the longer term. We need all hands on deck when it comes to our engagement with healthcare. We're going to allow physician assistants, for example, to practice in Saskatchewan. Physician assistants are healthcare professionals who have taken additional training in a recognized program across this nation that we live, and they'll be able to practice medicine under the supervision of a physician. And finally, we are taking steps to reduce the red tape associated with the assessment of credentials for not only our healthcare employees, but all of the credentials across the scope in Saskatchewan. The fact of the matter is that in many cases, our healthcare folks that are trained, it's simply taking too long for them to get licensed in our province. And again, this is not unique to Saskatchewan. This is a challenge across the nation, and one that I talk about frequently with my colleagues, the other premiers across Canada. And so we've been working alongside our regulatory bodies to assess an internationally trained physician, so someone trained outside of the nation of Canada, to assess their applicants' qualifications and provide that first person a response, yes or no, in 50 days. For those that are certified in other jurisdictions within the nation of Canada, the deadline for determining whether they're qualified to work in this province by the regulatory body is 20 days. They will get an answer in 20 days. These are the fastest and most ambitious processing times in the nation today. When it comes to education, also impacts each of our communities, and I would say more broadly and importantly impacts the next generation, the folks that will be in this room in the years ahead. We increased support for our education sector this last budget by, again, 6.7%. There will be, for example, investment in the Saskatchewan Distant Learning Centre, or the SASC DLC. And the SASC DLC will oversee the centralization of online learning beginning this fall. It'll start in December. No matter where a student lives in this province, they will have access to high-quality, flexible learning opportunities. In fact, 180 courses to date will be offered for students attending kindergarten to grade 12. School divisions will continue to receive and will be kept whole with respect to their formulary funding for local students that may access a course or 2 or 3 from the SASC DLC. And additionally, since those same school divisions will no longer bear the cost of the online programming that they are operating, public school divisions will save about $13 million this year, and it's our hope that those savings can then be redirected to in-class instruction and supports in our in our classrooms across the province. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to invest in infrastructure, often alongside each of you and your community in this room. And this year, we're going to improve over 1,000 kilometers of highway. It's going to be the 4th year in what is a 10-year goal under our growth plan objective. The 10-year goal was to improve or build 10,000 kilometers of highway. After this year, we'll be at 4,600 after 4 years, so we're on pace to achieve our target ahead of time. And in the coming year, we're also going to be investing more in rural internet services, which is also of importance to many in this room. Last month, for example, SaskTel announced it's going to bring in its Infinet service to another 48 communities across the province. This is part of, it's actually the 6th phase of a $200 million rural fiber initiative that SaskTel had put forward. And we know that improved rural broadband service is important to your community. SaskTel knows it. Your government understands that. It's critical for businesses. It's critical for your businesses that want to ultimately expand. So this is a priority for all involved, most certainly those in your community as well. Delegates, we still face many challenges in this province, even as our province grows and the vast potential that we see before us. And I talked about some of those challenges that we have in healthcare. And we also have some challenges, I would say, in many of our communities when it comes to property crime and increasingly crimes that are causing harm to people that, again, we collectively represent. This is a challenge. I think we all are aware of it. So if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we call this what it is. What we're facing is property crime that is often fueled by drug addictions. And our government has a 2-track approach when it comes to addressing this challenge that we collectively have. Right now, we're in the process of adding up to 150 addictions treatment and detox spaces across the province. These are intensive rehabilitation spaces, much more intensive than what's present there today. And I don't know that 150 is going to be the cap. I think we're likely, as we achieve that number, going to have to go beyond that. We are investing in rehabilitation and treatment. In Regina and Saskatoon, we're building new urgent care centers being built today in Regina. In Saskatoon, will be built shortly with a partnership with the Takakoop First Nations. In those urgent care centers, there's going to be an entry point for people that are experiencing maybe a mental health crisis, or people that unfortunately are living with addictions and are looking to change their path in life. This is the first track, helping people access treatment and making sure that treatment is available. The second track is enforcement. As a province, we can't change the Criminal Code of Canada. That's for the federal government. But we can make sure it's enforced. We've provided funding in years gone by to both our RCMP as well as our municipal police forces across the province. For example, the crime reduction teams. We have the Saskatchewan Trafficking Response Team. The Saskatchewan Warrant Enforcement Team is a more recent innovation, as well as our PAC teams, our Police and Crisis Team. In the last decade or so, we've actually added across the province over 270 RCMP officers, over 85 municipal police officers into our communities. And while we're continuing to work with our partners to expand the community safety officer program in municipalities as well as First Nations communities. And last year, for example, we began a First Nations community safety officer pilot project with Whitecap, Dakota, as well as Muscatine First Nation. We expect eventually there will be about 11 First Nations that participate in that program. So training community safety officers is what we're doing who can then provide a uniform presence in many communities, whether they be Indigenous or non-Indigenous, freeing up police to spend more time investigating those more serious crimes. We have already signed with the federal government and with Brian Hardlott from the PA Grand Council a memorandum of understanding to move forward on Indigenous community policing as well with those member communities, and we'll expand that as per our speech from the throne last year. And very shortly, we are going to be adding 70 Saskatchewan marshals to help keep our communities safe. The marshals, I want to be clear, are here to complement and support, not replace, our municipal police forces as well as our RCMP police forces, because we are going to continue to invest not only in those two organizations, but with that provincial arm of enforcement, as well as continue to invest most certainly in rehabilitation and treatment. Because everyone in Saskatchewan, at the end of the day, we are striving for safer communities. Everyone, including your family and mine, they deserve to feel safe in the community where they live. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there are a number of affordability challenges for families that we've seen over the course of the last few years, and that's why this past fall we announced an affordability plan to help address the cost of living in Saskatchewan, and that included the $500 tax credit, an extension of the small business tax reduction, and the retirement of $1 billion in operating debt that accumulated during the pandemic as we tried to support families and businesses in our communities. SGI. 700,000 rebate checks went out in 2021, an average of about $380 each. Again, last year, $100 checks were issued. Taken together, these affordability measures are a significant package made possible because of the strength of our resource-based economy here in this province, an economy that I would say most certainly deserves to be protected. So with that in mind, we're going to continue our efforts to inform the federal government at times, as well as others, about Saskatchewan's significant contributions to this nation. A strong and growing and vibrant Saskatchewan most certainly contributes to a strong and growing and vibrant nation of Canada. This is a long-standing campaign that we have undertook. It's been going on for 6 or 7 years now, and I would just say this. Contrary to what some in this room may think, I don't get up in the morning and the first thought through my mind is, I wonder how I can disagree with the Prime Minister and the federal government today. And that might surprise a few of you. I do get up in the morning and I think, what can we do that is the very best and in the very best interest of the people that we represent, the families that live in Saskatchewan. And so when the federal government is willing to work in the best interests of Saskatchewan families, Saskatchewan industry, Saskatchewan jobs, and ultimately Saskatchewan people, we're more than happy to do that. And we've done that by signing that MOU with PAGC and the federal government on advancing Indigenous community policing efforts. We've done that when it comes to accessing childcare funding for Saskatchewan families. We've done that when it comes to accessing federal dollars that will go into our healthcare system. But sometimes, at times, doing what is best for Saskatchewan means defending our people and our industries from harmful intrusion at times. Abraham Lincoln, I'm going to quote Abraham Lincoln here. He said, and I quote, "Be sure you put your feet in the right place and stand firm." Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this province, our feet are in the right place, and we most certainly are standing firm. We will defend Saskatchewan's interests simply because it is the right thing to do for the people that reside here and the people that ultimately in this room we collectively represent. I mentioned earlier about the population growth in our province. Certainly Saskatoon and Regina are growing immensely, and people very quickly look to those larger cities, but Other communities across Saskatchewan are growing and growing quite rapidly as well. And I want to wrap up today by telling you about 3 people who could live anywhere in Canada. Actually, they could live anywhere in the world, but certainly they could live anywhere in Canada, but they chose this province. More precisely, they chose Moosomin, Saskatchewan. And while this story is about Moosomin, you can very quickly switch out North Battleford, Swift Current, Meadow Lake, Nipawin, Yorkton, or any of the other dozens of communities across the province. In almost every community in this province, you're going to find someone who have assessed their opportunities across Canada, maybe even looked around the world and decided that Saskatchewan is a place where they want to put down their roots. People like Jared Slugoski. Jared grew up in Moosomin, but he moved away to pursue a career in the hospitality industry. He spent a little more than 15 years working at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise. It's a pretty nice place. I've driven by it. I don't think I can afford to go in. But when his son was born a few years ago, he decided that his family needed a change and he needed a change. He decided it was time for him to go home. And in Moosomin, there was a restaurant that was up for sale. It was called the Corner Cafe. And Jared, he sought out some financing, and once that was achieved, he bought the Corner Cafe and he began to redevelop it. And today, the Corner Cafe is now known as the Cork and Bone Bistro. And some of you, I'm sure, have been there. It's a beautiful, elegant restaurant with a menu that wouldn't be out of place in any high-end eatery, whether it be in Banff or Lake Louise, downtown Toronto, Vancouver, wherever you want to be. And all of this happened just prior to the pandemic. Not the best time to open a restaurant. But the Cork and Bone Bistro is survived the pandemic and is going very strong today. And Jared said he's feeling very lucky with where he is. He says, and I quote, "I realized that living on a mountaintop for 16 years made me miss the closeness of community. The kinship. It's a really great family-oriented vibe in this town." Again, you can switch out Moosomin for virtually any community across Canada. Dr. Cara Fallis, she has enjoyed many fine meals at the Cork and Bone Bistro. Cara is the first medical resident to train in Moosomin as part of the family residency training program. Cara was raised in Toronto, took her medical training in the Philippines. She went through several interviews with other communities as she progressed through the Canadian Resident Matching Service, and in the end, Cara decided to move to Moosomin. That was the best fit for her. She liked the amenities that were available to her, including the swimming pool right in the middle of town. She liked the pace of life that was present in Moosomin. And it didn't hurt that the Moosomin District Healthcare Foundation made sure that when she arrived, her fridge was full. Cara said, and I quote, "I have a son who's 5 years old. I wanted to make sure I was moving somewhere that would feel comfortable for everyone in my family." And finally, there's Ola Volek. Ola and her daughter Zlata are 2 of the many thousands of Ukrainians that have made home in our province. They sought refuge after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Well, Ola is a graphic designer. She thought about moving to a bigger city, maybe a Toronto or a Vancouver, but she came to the conclusion that Saskatchewan just simply made more sense. She decided that Moosomin was the place for her family to be. It was affordable, it was friendly, and it felt like home. And today, Ola works with the Moosomin Spectator, and she says, and I quote, "When the war started, I lost all trust in people. But here, I found that trust again." These are 3 stories among about 20,000 in less than the last 5 months alone. These are people that found what they are looking for right here in Saskatchewan. Delegates, our home has been a beacon of hope from the very beginning, the very origins of this province, a welcoming province where people with ambition and enterprise say they can build for the future, they can build for their family's future. Well, today I would say that future has arrived. This is the place, and now is the time. We have an unprecedented opportunity to build an even stronger Saskatchewan into the future. Let's take advantage of that opportunity. Let's do it together for this generation as well as for generations to come. Thank you very much and have a great conference.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Premier, for joining us today and coming back again on Wednesday. And I want to reiterate what you said. Indeed, it is our time to shine, and we do have stories to tell. And I just want to make a promise to you. I want to promise you, and it's not just me, it's we, everyone in this room, the 441 members across the province of SUMA, we are going to help you when you wake up in the morning to really help our residents. Like 80% of the people that live in this province live in our urban municipalities. So we're going to help you because we want to continue these discussions on building healthy, safe communities. So every one of our residents feels safe, we have health care, we have the infrastructure we need, and I am committing to you that we're going to continue this work together so that we can see that happen, because we know in this room, every one of the 1,000 delegates that are here today and for the next 3 days, we know what we need in our communities, and we can't wait to talk to you about it, you and your government. So thank you very much for taking time today. We look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday, and I look forward to meeting with your cabinet and continue the work that we're doing, working together. So thank you very much.
Wow. Did you hear what I heard? That was amazing. Planting Saskatchewan's flag